Hello and welcome, fellow Wasteland survivors. I'm Dean. Thanks for stopping in, because in today's video we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the brand new, highly anticipated event, Project Paradise, which is located right here in the labs under Arctos Pharma. Now we're going to start off with looking around, trying to get a sense of the layout of this dungeon, or instance as I like to call it. We're also going to talk about some of the mechanics of the event, because it is kind of confusing. And then at the end we'll talk about some strategies that might help us better guarantee the best legendary or loot drops that we can get. I'm sure by now most of you already know where Arctos Farm is at, but just in case you don't, it's a little bit southeast of the vault. And even if the event is not up, you can still fast travel there. But if the event is up, you can go ahead and click on it and join it from that particular icon. Once you do, it will take you directly into the labs underneath Arctos Pharma. Now we're going to go when the event is not up. So it's not going to spawn us in the dungeon or the instance. We're going to have to find our way in. Now it is a low-level area, and you'll probably have to kill a couple of, low-leveled enemies. But once we find this elevator, we can go ahead and head on down into the labs. But take a look. It does have a warning, and it says level 50 and above.
Welcome to the Arctos Pharma Biome Lab.
When we first step off the elevator, we'll find ourselves in a fairly large room. And at first glance, it does look overwhelming. But to me, it kind of looks like a control center, a hub, if you will, to all the other habitats located in this dungeon or instance. Now, this makes perfect sense, because from here you can access all the other habitats easily. As you can see right there, it says A, right here it says B, and then over here it says C on this broke down wall. Now let's go ahead and see how quick and easy we can access the habitats from the control center. Now you can access these labs at any time, even if the event is not up. It's full of very high-level, dangerous robots, and it's a great place to come and farm legendaries. So if you're going to do that, don't forget to bring your troubleshooters. Alright, now Habitat A is extremely beautiful. It's lush, it's got a lot of water, we got a waterfall, lots of plants, and quite a few trees. This part of the dungeon's well done, and I did enjoy the way it looked overall. Extremely good job, Bethesda.
Did you know? Erica stands for a really irritated computer.
Alright, now starting back from the elevator where we first came in, let's find our way over to Habitat B. Now all of these habitats have multiple ways that you can enter into the area, and that's what makes this extremely confusing. But you can see just how quick we entered into Habitat B from the control area. As we start to look around in this area, we can see that it looks quite a bit different than the last habitat. There's quite a few drainage pipes coming into the area, and it kind of looks almost like a disposal area. Now, not really so much like sewage, but maybe like byproducts from chemicals, something like that. It's kind of dark, there's really no vegetation, and it makes perfect sense, because during the event, here's where you're going to be looking for sludge.
I consider autonomous to be one of my best features. You are getting in the way of that.
Alright, one final time, starting back at the elevator, let's make our way over to Habitat C. Now to me this area looks like it's under construction, but a friend of mine thinks it looks more destroyed, either by the bombs that fell or something that happened inside of the labs. It made a pretty interesting conversation, and if you guys and gals have any thoughts on it, hit me up in the comments below. Alright, now as we take a quick look around, we can once again see this habitat looks completely different than any of the other habitats. To me, this habitat looks more like a swamp, as we can see a lot of vines and things growing off the different objects. You can even see a little bit of mist out in the area. It really gives a feeling that you can almost feel the humidity in this area. And that really makes perfect sense, because when you're doing the event, here's where you're going to be looking for kelp.
Is this urgent? I have higher priority tasks in my queue, such as do nothing.
Alright, now that we kind of know our way around a little bit, let's talk a little bit more about the event itself. When I first came here and did this, it was extremely confusing on what we needed to do. But if we'll notice up in the upper right hand corner, we've got 10 minutes to fill the feeding troughs. We need venison in habitat A, sludge in habitat B, rad kelp in habitat C. So let's go ahead and start off with habitat A. Now when we first enter into the area, not much is going on, but we can see some fragrant venison laying around on the ground, and it's marked with these reddish, orangish type diamonds. Now it does say take, but I was never able to get any of them. Now I don't know if it was bugged or if that's what we're using to lure these ragstag into the area. But what you want to do is kill as many as you can and loot all the fragrant venison. Also, keep your eyes open. You may run into some legendaries. So if you're in a group or with a buddy, make sure you holler out and let him know. Now at the end of 10 minutes, you'll get a prompt for the final call for trough materials. And you've only got 30 seconds to get them into the trough. Now once we place ours in, we'll see that there are 19 already in the trough. And it hasn't registered that I've put mine in yet. We've got 19 in there with a rating of 0 of 3. But once mine registers, we'll instantly jump to 26. And when we do, we now get a rating of 1 of 3. Now you may ask yourself, what is a rating? Well, a rating is the type or the tier of friendly animal that you're going to get. And you want to get the highest tier that you possibly can. If you have a 0 rating or even a 1, you're going to get a very low friendly animal. Here is a great example. We have a 0 ranking in all 3 habitats. Therefore, we got a tick, a bloatfly, and a blood bug. Very low tiered friendly animals, which is going to make it extremely difficult to protect during the fight.
Are you a lab assistant or a test subject?
Now, back on our original fight, we did manage to get our rating to a 1. It then said meet friendly animals, and shortly after that it said defend friendly animals. Now, because we are at a rating of 1, we ended up getting a named glowing wolf. I've also seen like glowing Mirelurks, etc. Creatures of that level. Now, what it actually takes to get to a rating of 3, I really don't know yet. I've heard that it takes 60 materials to get that rating to a 3. But until we find out, I'm not going to say exactly for sure. Alright, next, let's go to Habitat B, see what materials that we need for that trough and where to find them. Well, if you look around in these piles that kind of have like an orange steam coming off of them, you will find sludge. Also, activate it numerous times in different areas on the sludge to get more sludge. Also, once you've activated one of those little areas with the steam or the smoke coming off of it, you will aggravate a bunch of mole rats. And some of these mole rats will have sludge on them as well.
Lab protocol states, do not bother the computer unless you are very, very important.
Alright, in Habitat C, we need to find rad kelp. And you can find them from these plants that, once again, have this orangish type mist coming off of them. Now, one thing to note about Habitat C. I could only find the rad kelp from the plants. There was no enemies that had any on them. So they're going to be very hard to find a lot of the materials in Habitat C for the trough.
All questions, comments, and annoyances are to be directed toward human resources.
Okay, now let's talk about some of the mechanics for the fight that we have ahead of us. First of all, we've got to protect our friendly animal from 3 waves of enemies. Now, these enemies can spawn in any one of the 3 habitats. They could even split up and attack multiple habitats at once. And as you can see here, we have 1 wave already done. And you can hear gunfire in the distance of other players fighting those enemies. But here shortly, we're going to get some enemies and be attacked. Now, the way this works is anytime an enemy spawns into a habitat, their main focus is the friendly animal, and they're going to want to kill it. If they succeed, then that part of the habitat is lost, and we're going to have to move to another area to protect that friendly animal. Also, it makes it extremely important to kill the enemies as quickly as possible before they can do any damage to our friendly animals. Also, another thing to keep in mind, in case you're using explosive weapons, which I recommend, you cannot damage or hurt your friendly animal, but everything else in the environment can, including explosions. And we're going to see that here in just a second. But first, let me explain what I mean. As we are all painfully aware, legendary robots like to blow up shortly after you kill them. Now, sometimes it's quite quick, but other times it may take 10, 15, even 20 seconds before they detonate. They're just trying to lure you in to see what kind of legendary they had on them just before they blow you up. Well, sentry bots do the same thing, even if they're not legendary. Shortly after killing them, they will detonate. So keep that in mind. As you're fighting through your waves of enemies, if you see any legendaries, or in this case, a legendary sentry bot, then you need to try to lure them away from the area or kill them before they get to where your friendly animal is at. Because if they detonate, as you can see right there, our friendly animal, the blood bug, only has about, 5% of health left. It almost one-shotted him. Now it'll be impossible to protect our blood bug from future waves. And as you can see, this gulper just finished him off. And now our little blood bug is dead. And we have lost this particular habitat. The only choice that we have now is to go to a different habitat and try to protect that friendly animal.
Test subjects are advised to wait in the lobby until called upon.
Believe it or not, we failed quite a few of these events because of this happening. Here we're finishing up our second wave, and as you guys can see, we've got a legendary robot that we just killed right there. Now, as long as enemies are out, the blood bug will hide, or your friendly animal will hide. But once you've killed everything, it'll come back thinking it's safe, and then boom. And we failed the event. There's got to be a way to protect those lower-tiered creatures from dying like that.
Sorry, but I cannot process your request right now. Please return in never minutes.
If you successfully defend at least one of your friendly animals, on the third wave you will get a level 100 3-starred enemy. Now, just because it's a high level and 3-star does not mean you're guaranteed great loot. Depending upon several of the things that we've talked about in this video, that will determine the quality of the legendary you get. Here, I get a Mutant Slayer's Switchblade, mainly because in all 3 habitats, we had a rating of 0. Alright, now for the final part of this video, let's talk a little bit about strategy. And we'll do it while we watch Choppy and I solo this event. Alright, for me personally, I believe there are 3 things you need to focus on to be able to complete the event successful and be guaranteed the best legendary drops. 1. Whether you're in a group or you're single, the second that you enter the event, try to find out where everybody's at. The more people bringing materials to the trough, the better. The higher your friendly animal's tier rating is, the better it will survive. Also, I think it does give you a little bit better legendary drops because your tier is higher. 2. Don't try to defend a habitat by yourself or in a small group. At this point in time, I don't know for sure, but I don't think it matters as long as just one friendly animal is alive when you complete the event or kill the end boss. So don't waste your time being in an area where there's very little people. Third, don't just focus on the boss on the third wave. There are quite a few other enemies that are coming out in that wave, and they're all after your friendly animal. So work on those and then work on the boss in between times. Because we have seen a lot of other players doing this, we've had a lot of failed attempts at this event. So hopefully these tips or this strategy will help in maximizing our wins on this event. And other than that, I think this is a great addition to Fallout 76. It's done well. I'm enjoying it. I'm having a lot of fun, and so are my friends. Alright everybody, thank you all very much for stopping in, hanging out with me today. I really do appreciate it. And just like always, until next time, please stay safe and peace.